Good morning, and thank you for joining us for this webinar on COVID-19 guidance for early learning and care contractors. This webinar is being presented by the California Department of Education's Early Learning and Care and Fiscal and Administrative Services divisions. This webinar is being held on August 21st, 2020, and is scheduled to run from 10 a.m. until 11 a.m. And good morning again, and again, thank you for taking some time to join us for the webinar. My name is Stephen Profiter, and I'm the Director of the Early Learning and Care Division at the California Department of Education. This is our second in this series of webinars aimed to provide the most up-to-date information and guidance available. In addition to the shifting dynamics due to COVID-19, we're now confronted with many wildfires that threaten the lives and livelihoods of so many children and families. These fires and emergency conditions too often result in long-term recovery efforts. Some natural events may have rendered centers, preschools, and providers unable to offer services, while other events may have increased the number of families experiencing homelessness. In response to an emergency proclamation issued on August 18th, 2020, by Governor Newsom regarding the fires burning across California, the CDE will be releasing information about resources available shortly. We are also looking at revising the reimbursement guidance provided by Management Bulletin 1009. So coming back to the webinars, since the last webinar last Friday, we thought at the time we would have more to release in terms of management bulletins and email blasts. However, based on our agreement with the legislature, we are holding off on releasing more until the trailer bill language is in print, which we're anticipating will happen soon. We have accumulated questions and concerns from many of you through the emergency email address, through stakeholder group meetings, and then contact with ELCD staff members and Q&As from last week's webinar. We do appreciate the continued communication with you all and hope that you will continue to bring your questions and concerns forward. Before I go further, I do want to stop here and thank the team who have been working tirelessly on many fronts to craft guidance and support programs. And with that, I will turn it over to the ELCD's Associate Director, Erica Otiono, for some additional remarks.
Good morning, everyone. I say good morning to the early learning and care community. It is with great pleasure that I welcome all of you to the second session of our webinar, which I call Connecting with the ELC Community. So I'm going to hand it off to Ms. Alana to move us forward. Again, I just want to welcome you and thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Well, hello. This is Alana Andrade. I am I'm a child development consultant at the policy office, but I actually think I would like Virginia, our administrator of the ELCD policy office, to talk to us a little bit first.
Thanks, Alana. So just briefly, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Virginia Early. I'm the policy office administrator in the Early Learning and Care Division. So my office's lead on issuing all the guidance that you've been seeing and working with the legislature and the administration to ensure that priorities and needs from the field are being addressed and elevated. So I'll turn it back to you, Alana.
Thank you, Virginia. So I'm going to be the moderator. So once your Q&As are coming in, which they currently are, I'll be also asking those questions out loud so our panelists can talk. And so helping to answer some of those questions today are Cassandra Lewis and Richard Miller from the Program Quality Implementation Office, Danielle Cisneros from the Policy Office, as well as Corey Kahn and Andrea Johnson from our CDNFS division. As we begin, we ask that you continue to mute your microphone, and if any other questions arise that aren't answered during the hour, please submit them to ELCD's emergency inbox at elcdemergency@cde.ca.gov. Also important to note that we at ELCD will be releasing e-blasts and emails, frequently asked questions, and management bulletins to the field as soon as they are available. And at any time during this webinar, you can write in and send your questions. We see that that's being utilized already. Thank you. We will save answering questions from the Q&A until the end, although the folks that I did mention earlier are also working to answer them in the box right now as well. If we are unable to answer your question, all questions in the Q&A feature will be captured. And another thing to note as we go through our presentation, that all the children in the photos are from our programs. These children on here, this is why we're here. We're here for these children. So I would like to pass it back to Stephen to discuss our agenda.
Great, thank you, Alana. Almost forgot to take myself off mute. So by way of an introduction and overview of our work, our staff have been working with the legislature and the administration to influence decisions made in the budget, to provide technical assistance to them as they craft the budget, and then to continue to elevate the issues that you all have brought to us and that have emerged since the budget was signed at the end of June. At the same time, as we've been working on all these items, we've been working on developing guidance that we will continue to release, as well as those that will be released after the trailer bill is out. Today, we want to provide you with the status update on ongoing CDE guidance work, both in terms of what's new and what's ahead, so you have a sense for where everything is. We will be providing updates on work in the program quality implementation offices from our associate director. And those updates will relate to monitoring, program quality, and training. In addition, we will also cover fiscal updates, and we have our fiscal team on, the CDE's fiscal team on to cover those items. And then finally, at the end, we're going to take questions. We'll start with some questions that have come into the ELCD emergency email box. We won't be able to get through everything, but we'll do our best to address as much as we can. You may also use, as Alana mentioned, the Q&A function in Zoom to put your questions in. We will do our best to address as many questions as possible during this webinar, but whichever questions we don't get to, rest assured we will take those back to address in FAQs on our website. And I'm going to now turn it over to Virginia to go deeper into our ongoing CDE guidance work.
I was muted too, Steve. So, all right, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Virginia Early. So, as Stephen mentioned at the top of the webinar, last week we had told you that we wanted to get a number of pieces of guidance out this week. And based on our ongoing conversations with the legislature, we've agreed to hold some pieces until trailer bill is in print. Our understanding at this exact moment is that trailer bill will be in print sometime today or in the next day or so. Obviously, it's always a little hard to predict where it's going to be. We have, in terms of, we know that there are many of these key issues of concern to the field when it comes to our ongoing CDE guidance work. And so we wanted to give you some updates on where those hot topics are. So first of all, with Family fee waivers, the team has been working tirelessly on some guidance there. We have a draft, a listserv that will come out as hopefully we'll be able to get it as soon as the trailer bill is in print. That will address some additional pieces to follow up from our email blast that came out that specified family fees would be waived for July and August. And this email blast will also provide guidance around what to do about September. We know that people are very eager for this guidance, but again, as part of our agreement with the legislature, we've agreed to hold off on issuing that until the trailer bill is in print. So our hope is that once trailer bill is in print, we'll be able to release another email blast providing greater details about family fees very soon. The next sort of big issue we've heard and what we're working on is reimbursement and distance learning requirements. We also have an email blast that's in the final stages of internal review, and we hope to have that out in the next few days because we know that that's a topic that is really coming up as something that needs to be addressed and guidance needs to be issued on. We know, and I can see already from the Q&A function of the chat, that distance learning requirements for direct service contractors are a hot topic. And so just to give you an update on where we are there, we will be developing a management bulletin that will provide more guidance on what the distance learning requirements are for direct service contractors. Until that management bulletin is released, please continue to rely on your existing distance learning plan. And please note that based on state law, if you are a direct service contractor that is closed and funded to be operational, you are required to provide distance learning to the children who are enrolled. So until we release more guidance, please continue to rely on your existing distance learning plan there. The next item here is our COVID-19 guidance to our California resource and referral programs and local planning councils. So this management bulletin is the final in our final stage of review. So we're trying to be a little bit more precise than just saying soon, so that you kind of know where it is in our trajectory. Finally, we talked about this a little bit last week, but we will be doing a webinar towards the end of this month that goes more specifically into some guidance on procurement. So keep posted for an email blast with more details about that. So at this point, I'm sure that folks have a lot of varying nuanced questions to everything I just said. Hopefully this gives you a broad overview, and we can talk about the details of this more in the question and answer section of this webinar, but I will now turn it over to our Associate Director for her update.
Good morning, everyone. Again, the Early Learning and Care community, as you have heard, we are working diligently to provide you with guidance. It has not been easy, and I know it is the same on your part. We know you are working hard to do the best you can for children and families, and we support that. So on this slide, I have three items: monitoring. Under monitoring, we have state and federal, and then we have training, and then we have program quality elements. Make it brief. For monitoring, yes, there'll be monitoring, just as I said last week, there'll be monitoring for this fiscal year. It will be working together with contractors. I call it TSE. We're going to be transparent, supportive, and efficient. Transparent, meaning we're going to engage you, all the contractors. Supportive, meaning we just want to identify areas that you need technical assistance. And efficient is to reduce administrative burden on you. We're going to simplify it and do it the best way we can together. We're doing remote monitoring. We are almost done with the architecture for that. Thank you, Richard Miller. We are going to do a pilot of the process. We're going to get feedback from you before we launch it. So coming soon. So that's the state part of the monitoring. And then we have the federal part of the monitoring. As a state, California, we are very lucky this year. This fiscal year is a lucky year because we're going to have federal visit. They did visit us a couple of years ago, but this time it's a little different. It is more comprehensive. They have scheduled the visit for February 23rd through the 25th. More to come. It is, again, more comprehensive. The last time they came, they focused on just program integrity. But this time, they're looking way beyond program integrity. They're looking at our disaster plan, consumer education, staffing ratios, annual inspection, and so on, and of course, program integrity. So stay tuned. You don't have to worry about any of this. It's monitoring of the CDE, not necessarily the contractor. But you will come in when it's the visit part of it, because they would like to visit some agencies. The last time they did visit 2 centers, they selected the site, so we don't tell them. So they typically would like to see what it is like from the time, if I'm a parent, I come into your door, you walk them through the whole process from the beginning to the end. So we are going to attend their training, and then we'll bring that information back to you on the federal monitoring. It is fun. And we're going to work jointly with CDSS, because it's not just about CDE, it's a joint. So that's the monitoring part of the discussion today. The next one I want to talk about is the training. The training, as you're going to hear from PQI consultant shortly, meaning shortly in the next week or 2, about we want to know agencies that are open, not open. Are you doing distance learning? The reason we want to know is so that we can custom what kind of training and technical support that you need to make it more efficient and supportive of what you do during this pandemic. So that's that about training. And of course, we'll do our webinar Wednesdays, but not to inundate you once again. We just focus on those topics that you need information on. And finally, program quality is the last element that I want to talk about. Program quality is about good programs for young children. More so, and good programs for young children has been a great aspect of early learning and care. For good programs for young children is just making sure that we're all working together in terms of activities that we provide for children. When I talk about activities, I'm talking about your curriculum. It's imagined, and because kids come to you with different stories now. Also, as you provide activities, as you look at your curriculum, that you're also looking at children. What is it that they bring to you? Observation, again, about observation. I know the DRDP, we're talking about the DRDP. We've had meetings about the DRDP, not some constituent not wanting to do the DRDP this time. So I pose the question to you, if we don't do DRDP, then what are we going to do to observe children? So this is about knowing where children are and be able to provide activities for them to support their growth and socio-emotional development. So that's that. And also being connected, program quality about being connected with families. Enrichment, looking about your environment. What environment are you providing for children, and what resources do you need for that? Staff trainings that you have provided or continue to provide, provider training also. And we know all those good work that you've done and continue to do on all these program quality elements. So I'm just going to wrap it up by saying, with all I have said about program quality elements, what I'm hoping that each one of you will do is that you have submitted your program quality plans to us, that you can go ahead and update that based on all the, I know you sent us some pictures, some activities. I just received one great one yesterday from an agency in the northern part. Excellent. So update your plans. We're going to be asking you for those plans to help support what you do for children and families. I just want to close and say thank you again, and thank you for all you do. PQI, ELCD, CDE, we want to continue to support you with what we do. It takes a village. It's about early learning and care community. It's not CDE, they and us. It's about us together. It's about early learning and care community. Thank you for listening to us. Reach out to your consultants. They may not have your answers, answers to your question right now, but be patient. We'll get back to you. If we don't have answers, we'll reach out to other resources to respond to your questions. Thank you again, and talk to you soon. And that's the end from PQI. And now on to fiscal.
Okay, good morning, everyone. For those that don't know me, my name is Corey Kahn, and I'm a manager within the Child Development and Nutrition Fiscal Services Unit. Today, I'm just going to provide just a few fiscal updates, and some of them were based on some questions that we received and have been receiving from you all. So the first one is about reporting family fees for July and August 2020. So on July 28th, there was a listserv that was sent out that notified contractors that the CDE had engaged in conversations with the legislature and administration regarding concerns about family fee collections. And an agreement was made that family fees for July and August were waived. As a result of waiving these fees, a new line had been added to the fiscal reports in order for us, CDNFS, to ensure that the reimbursement calculations reflected the waiver, and that we continued to keep them accurate. Contractors will report the amount of family fees that were assessed but waived in July and August on the new line of the CDNFS fiscal reports. And that line is titled Waived Family Fees for Certified Children. So you'll see that under where you typically report family fees. So this information will be required beginning the August report submission. If you guys are monthly reporters, or if you're quarterly reporters, you'll just reflect that on the September report. And we'll actually discuss this in more detail within the next couple weeks. But we just wanted to take this opportunity to let you all know of this change, because there probably are some people out there who have started to submit a July report and may have actually noticed this line. So we're just informing you of that line. So anytime for July and August, all family fees were waived, you should be reporting the amount on that waived family fee line. Okay, so the next bullet is fiscal year 2021 reporting attendance for center-based contractors. So we've actually received many questions on this, I think even in the chat today. I've been seeing them as well. And it's in regards to how to report attendance and enrollment on our CDNFS fiscal report forms, fiscal and attendance report forms. So we would like to take that opportunity to address that here. As you are aware, this year attendance is not being taken into consideration when determining contract earnings or reimbursement. However, you all still have a requirement through the funding terms and conditions to continue to report attendance and enrollment on our fiscal and attendance report form. So for fiscal year 2021, contractors will be instructed to report only the days of attendance for which the child was physically served in the classroom. So that's physically served in the classroom, that's for attendance. So you will only record that on our CDNFS forms for that instance. The days of enrollment, you will report all the days of enrollment for which all children are enrolled in the program, whether they are actually receiving in-person services or not. So we do understand that this ties into some pending questions related to distance learning. But I do want to just make it very clear that I'm only addressing the reporting aspect on our CDNFS forms here right now. And then the last bullet is in regards to California Alternative Payment Program, or also known as CAP, and cash flow in fiscal year 2021. So throughout this pandemic, we've been urging CAP contractors to monitor their cash flow projections closely. and contact their fiscal analyst if you foresee any issue. So last year we received quite a bit of contact when the pandemic started, and it was primarily due to the new enrollments of emergency childcare. And now we understand that in 2021, cash flow issues may have arisen for different reasons. And so we want to urge you guys to please continue to reach out to your fiscal analyst if you foresee a cash flow issue. But also when reviewing your projections internally, please consider some of the following. So the forthcoming emergency childcare augmentation that we shared with you a few weeks ago through email, but also the increased cost associated with many children needing full-time care due to school closures. Any changes in attrition that your agency may be experiencing, whether that be positive attrition or, more attrition or less attrition, you'll want to take that into consideration. And any other reason that you have at your agency for increased cost of care. And that was it for the fiscal updates. So I'll want to turn it over to Alana, who will go over some of the questions that we've received during this webinar.
Excellent. Thank you, Corey. So a few folks have asked, Corey, if you could repeat about how to mark enrollment for those who are attending versus distance learning.
Okay.
So thank you.
Yeah, so we've been getting a lot of questions about this. So really, we only want you to record attendance on our CDNFS fiscal and attendance reports when the child actually was physically served in the classroom. So not those that are, might have gotten distance learning or been offered it or sheltering, just anyone who was in the classroom, that's who you should report in attendance.
Awesome, thank you,
So
Corey.
again, just to add, we understand that your attendance may look low, but for this fiscal year, we're reimbursing, based on we're not taking that into consideration, the enrollment and attendance.
Right. So Corey, can you repeat that in another way? Because there's a lot of questions about contractors seem nervous that their attendance looks really low, and that we know that this is different for the field,
Yeah.
like it's a whole new ball game. So if you can repeat that.
So in general, SB 98, Senate Bill 98 said that, for fiscal year 2021, contract earnings would be based on cost or MRA, the lesser of those two. You do have to meet some specific requirements of the bill, but because of that, you're kind of disregarding the service earning portion of it. And so that's why, even though your attendance credit in reporting this way or your attendance percentage is gonna look very, very low, it's not playing into that reimbursement calculation for fiscal year 2021. So we just want to know who was physically served in your classroom.
Great, thank you. So there's also been a lot of questions about the DRDP. And Erica, I know that you gave a lot of information about how there's going to be a pilot, we're gonna run it, and then we're gonna figure it out. And also they're asking if there's going to be some sort of webinar or a presentation about that, or how will the field get to know what the new DRDP is gonna look like?
Thank you for that question, Ms. Alana. So the new, it's not a new DRDP, it's going to, we're still in discussion. I don't want to call it new DRDP because it's still going to be the same DRDP, but it will have like a shorter version of it. So instead of 25 items, maybe we're looking at 15 or even less than that. There will be an announcement that will go out to the field about that. But before that, we still need to talk with some contractors about the implementation of that. So it's still work in progress, but definitely you will get there will be an announcement coming out about the use of the DRDP. With that also is more the resources and training that we're really focusing on from West Ed to have resources and training for providers and also for parents and also for teachers. So yes, there will be.
Excellent. Okay. And also, we're getting a lot of questions about 801A reporting. So I'm going to ask Stephen to speak. So let's pull up one of them. So it's more about for close for the month of July and how do we report it, especially difference between 801A versus the attendance reporting that Corey was just speaking to. Stephen, can you elaborate on that, please? Wait a minute, there might be a technology difference. So let's see, there's also a couple. So for 801A, do we report all children, including children in distance learning?
Yeah, so hi, Alana. So it seems like Stephen might be having a tech issue, so I can address that.
Yes.
So there's a difference between what you heard Corey just say around the reporting for attendance and what you're reporting for our 801A data. So just want to make it clear, like what Corey was talking about earlier about just reporting attendance for those that are receiving in-person services, that's for the fiscal forms. For 801A, we want them to report all enrolled families. So that includes children that are receiving distance learning. So if an agency is closed and not providing any services, including distance learning services, then they will mark no services using the sub-agency no services function. It sounds like some folks have had a hard time getting in touch with the CDMIS team to ask some questions. And so we just want to reiterate, Alana put in the chat function of Zoom the email address. It's cdmis@cde.ca.gov. And we track all the emails really, really carefully there. I'm not really sure what happened in this specific instance. We'll take it back to that team and see what's going on there. Did that address the question that came in, Alana, or are there other pieces of it we should look at?
I think that did address. There's also going to be some, yes. Sorry, I'm trying to reread it. You all are being very engaging with our question and answer box, and I just don't think my screen is big enough to catch everything. So let's see what other questions were coming up. So Virginia, while you're here, there's a lot of questions about the family fee, specifically about September. Because some contractors are already starting to write in their invoices for next month. So if there's any more information or that you can give to the contractors.
Yeah, we really, so let me do that really quickly. Yeah. So, and then I think Corey might want to add on to the discussion that we just had about enrollment and attendance. So I'll turn it over to Corey. Do you want to take that one first, Corey, actually, before we go to the family fees while it's still fresh with people?
Sure. So it looks like we're having some questions about enrollment versus attendance on our fiscal reports as it relates to reporting when to report. So for enrollment, you are going to report every single child who was enrolled on our fiscal reports. And that is, you know, regardless of if they are receiving in-person care or participating or may not, you know, anyone who is enrolled in your program, report them the days of enrollment on our report form. Whether they're receiving distance learning, not, in-person care, we just want to know who is enrolled. For attendance, again, on our report forms, you will only report those that are receiving in-person care. Hopefully that cleared the questions. I have not been able to keep up with some of the questions, so if that wasn't in line with what the enrollment/attendance confusion was, let me know.
So should we go to the family fees question, Alana?
There is one question that maybe you can continue to answer, Corey, about is it reporting full-time or part-time if the contract is only about 10 hours a day? Or
So
maybe that's 10
reporting-
hours a week.
If we're talking about reporting enrollment, so we always go back to the source documentation. So enrollment is always based on how they were certified to be in the program. So for us, that would be looking back at the notice of action to see how many hours of care they were supposed to be there. And so that's how you will report the days of enrollment. So in the different adjustment factor categories, if their notice of action that's currently active said, let's say 4 hours a day, you would report them. I believe that is 3/4 time, I think. But it will always fall back to the notice of action for reporting enrollment. Attendance, we don't break attendance down by the adjustment factor categories. So again, we just want to know who was physically served.
Okay, thank you, Corey. And I know that a lot of the guidance is coming in and shifts a lot. So what I'm also hearing in the Q&A, and maybe anyone on the call can respond, is contractors are worried that they're doing things incorrectly. So can there be spoken to of like, we know that this is a fast moving target and we understand that if you're doing it to the best of your ability. That's not really quite a question. That's just more asking for, I think, an overarching, we understand that you're doing the best that you can with the information that we can give you as well. Is there something that you can add to that, Virginia or Stephen?
I think I would actually toss this one to Stephen and Erica.
I'm sorry, Ms. Alana, can you repeat the question again?
Sorry, it's not so much a question. There's just a lot of contractors who are worried that if they make a mistake, because the guidance is so quick and changing, that there's a little bit more leniency or understanding.
Absolutely. As long as, there will be flexibility in terms of how we monitor programs based on guidance that's being provided. Absolutely, yeah. But as long as it depends on what the issue is, yeah. So it really depends.
Oh, it looks
Erica,
like
I think you accidentally hit the mute button.
Oh, I know I did. Yeah. So again, it depends on what the issue is about leniency, this is a very challenging times. We understand that. So do your best what you can do using the guidance that you have in front of you, that you should be fine. And again, if you have any questions, reach out to your program quality consultant there. They're there to answer your questions. If they don't have the answers, we'll find the answers together. Yeah, reach out.
Thank you, Erica. I appreciate that. It wasn't a very well-formed question. So Virginia, I'm going to ask again about the family fees. Again, the questions have been about those who are making their invoices for September and whether it is expected or not expected.
Yeah, so thanks for the question, Alana, and for those of you that are asking that in the chat. I mentioned this a little bit when we did our brief presentation on what's upcoming, that our understanding is that trailer bill will be coming out later today and in print. And once that's in print, based on our agreement with the legislature, we'll be able to release guidance on family fees that will address what to do about September. So, so our hope is that, so we already have something that's drafted up. We're working, we have a team that's not on this webinar working on incorporating some feedback right now. And our goal is that we release that message as soon as possible after our trailer bill goes into print today. So you may not hear something from us until later today, or I think early next week at the absolute latest, you'll receive some guidance on family fees. We're also going to be working, and I've also seen some questions about this in the chat. I'm not as good as Alana at keeping track of everything while also talking, but there have been some questions about when will the trailer be out? How will we know what's in it? Can you tell us right now what's in it? So let me just take those questions really quickly. I did sort of respond to some of the messages in the chat, but I know that it's hard to listen to us talk while also be reading the Q&A, and some people may not have seen the answer, so I'll just repeat it here. We're working on an email blast that will go out notifying the field that the trailer bill is in print and briefly summarizing what it says so that people are aware and they can start thinking through how will we start implementing this. Obviously, the trailer bill does not become effective until until the legislature votes on it and the governor signs it. But it at least will give you an indication on where these conversations are heading and what you can plan for once everything is passed and signed. So look for that sort of overarching summary email from us, as well as a specific one related to family fees.
Excellent. Thank you, Virginia. So the next questions that we've been getting in have been, we are serving school-age children with our CCTR or fetching contract. Can we be reimbursed for providing care for school-age children while they're participating in distance learning during our regular school hours?
Is this one for me, Alana?
This is, I just muted too early.
Okay. So yeah, we talked last week about some directive we gave out as an email blast about the instructional minutes for programs that are receiving the regional market rate. There's specifically a regulation section that prevents programs receiving the regional market rate from being reimbursed during scheduled instructional minutes. That regulation first of all, we interpreted that regulation to provide clarity that for those programs receiving the regional market rate, those voucher programs, that scheduled instructional minutes did not include scheduled distance learning minutes because it's not provided in person. So we've gotten a lot of questions from you all about, well, what's the case for our direct contract programs that, with CCTR that get the standard reimbursement rate? So it's the same answer. Since K-12 distance learning does not provide supervision for children, we do not consider it to be scheduled instructional minutes. So, CCTR can provide care to school-aged children based on the certified hours of care. And that contractors will be, if children are participating in a hybrid model where they have some time that's in-person instruction with K-12 and other time that's distance learning, the program and contract is only reimbursed during the time the children are not receiving in-person instruction. So this applies to CCTR, Fetch-In, CMIG, our direct contract programs. Anything else on that we should touch, Alana? Does that answer the questions that people are sending in? We know that people want that in writing, and so we're working on putting that into one of our FAQs on our website. So just, but I mean, for now, this is the direction we're giving. Excellent,
Thank you. So this next one, I'm going to ask for Erica and perhaps Stephen. So they wrote, we are scheduled to open for direct services on August 24th, which is in compliance with requirement for reopening. We may not be able to do so due to the fires in our county. Are contractors going to be penalized if they're not able to meet the mandate? Do we need to revise our calendar? Is the paperwork the same when it involving emergency closures?
This is Erica Otiona. I'm just gonna say, hopefully we should have a list served out by Monday, but for sure, you're not gonna be penalized for not opening due to fires. That is for sure. You will not be penalized for not opening due to fires. Yeah, safety is number one. Yeah, we want everybody to be safe.
Excellent. Thank you, Erica. So there's also a few more questions about parent signatures. So we did send out a listserv email. So some folks are just asking, how do we do parent signatures, especially when distance learning is happening and we're not physically seeing the children and or the families? And this is regarding the AP parent signatures that are, once a month. So Erica, can you speak to that?
I'm sorry, Ms. Alana, can you repeat?
Yeah, so there's some questions about, are we still requiring parent signatures on the attendance records and our invoices?
Is that for AP programs?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for alternative payment program as right now that we speak, parent signature is still required once a month. It's only once a month. However, Ms. Virginia, you can add to this. We are still in discussion about how to, because we've had some concerns from the field about not being exposed. Some parents concerned about exposure to COVID-19 if they have to sign, and then some not being able to reach some providers not being able to reach some parents. So we heard all those concerns, and I think we are going to have something out shortly. Ms. Virginia, you can add to that. But as of now, today, right now, it is required, but we're hoping that we are going to make a little change, a little tweak to that requirement. Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks so much, Erica. Let me clarify what we mean when we say required. So you probably saw that we sent out an email blast on August 7th. This email blast shares that, basically we've heard the issue, and that contractors should not withhold reimbursement to providers on the basis of attendance records if that don't have a parent or guardian signature, if the provider has attempted to collect the signature and the parent or guardian is unable to sign due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So we still, in our ideal place, we still would like to have a parent signature, but this email blast provides clarity that the reimbursement can still be made if there isn't one, and it's the specific case where the parent couldn't sign due to the pandemic. There are some pieces in that email blast that discuss what documentation the provider needs to give to the parent related to parent signatures to sort of be reimbursed. First of the date and basically documentation that the provider has contacted the parent about it and that the parent was unable to sign. So we have 4 key things that we put in that email blast. The first is date and time of the contact, basically who was contacted in terms of what the parent, somebody else. A very brief summary of the specific information provided, why the parent says they can't sign, that kind of thing. And if the provider is having trouble getting in touch with the parent, that needs to document, that they've made several, that they've attempted to contact the parent, they've left a voicemail, if they're going to follow up with the parent in the future, what that plan is. So we know that some AP contractors have taken this and said, okay, here's how many times the provider needs to contact the parent. here's, let's make this super rigid. We just want to share that our intention here was just a couple of things. We weren't trying to make it super complicated. We didn't have a specific number of contacts in mind when we wrote this. So, so we know that this has been something that's been coming up a lot, and we just want to kind of share our thought process behind this. Because we didn't mean with this guidance to say here's how many times the parent needs to be contacted.
Okay, so it looks like we're getting close to a time check. We only have about 5 minutes left, but I just wanted to say that there are a lot of questions coming in about reporting absences if they are excused, since their families may not be coming in and, due to fears of COVID. I will just say that the wondrous team at CDNFS is talking through this during next week's webinar. So again, at the webinar next week, they will be asking and giving a lot of guidance on how to report absences if they are excused, since they are not coming in due to fears of COVID. I'm looking to see what date and time, and hopefully we can get that information to you in the chat before we complete. While we're waiting for that information, let's see if there's anything more quickly that we can answer before we close out and work on some resources. Appreciate for all the thank yous. This is a very hardworking team. And let's see, there's also a few questions based on, should I send my consultant processes of distance learning and conversation? And I'll just mimic what Erica said earlier, that yes, please reach out to your program quality consultant and make sure that you're in constant contact with them. Okay, we're still waiting for the information for CDNF's webinar next week. Until then, Barbara, can you move on to the resources slide so we can have that open? Thank you very much.
Alana, I think what we were just saying is the next time we all get together for this webinar, we'll definitely put that on the slide. We'll
Understood.
Yeah, so we're not doing a separate webinar. It'll be part of the series.
Okay, so look forward to it next Friday is what, okay, understood. Okay, so here on our last slide, we've got some information for resources, and I'll read them out loud as you take this time to put in your questions in the question and answer box. Again, we will be capturing all of these question and answers. I know folks have been asking about recordings. We are working with our technology service division to get this posted. Our slide deck will be able to get posted, but the recording itself, we have to work with our technology service division to see if it meets accessibility guidelines. And there's also been questions about how to get the questions and answers. And that is something that we will work with our TSD department on. So for some of our resources, so any of the slides, any of the MBs and FAQs that will be released will be found on our ELCD COVID-19 guidance webpage. That is at https://www.cde.ca.gov/sp/re/ELCD COVID-19.asb. If you have any other additional questions, please submit them to our ELCD emergency inbox at elcdemergency@cde.ca.gov. And if you have any other questions so you can also contact your ELCD Program Quality Implementation Office Regional Consultant. A list of consultants can be found at the assignments page, which is at https://www.cde.ca.gov/sp/cd/assignments.asp, or by calling 916-322-6233. And thank you, Mai, for putting those information in our chat box. I'm going to leave this open for a little bit, and then while you're still putting in your questions and answers, and I'd like to bring back our wondrous leader, Stephen.
Thank you, Alana. And thanks to all of you for not just, continuing to send in your questions, engaging here, but, for continuing to do all of the hard work that you're doing on the ground in the midst of just, beyond the evolving, pandemic. I know many of you all are also kind of impacted by distance learning, and including trying to support it in your programs, but not to mention the fires and everything that that's been going on. So from ELCD and from the Department of Education, just wanting to reiterate that we appreciate everything that you're doing. And we will continue to do our utmost to get guidance and get information out as soon as we are able to. And I think we can go ahead and wrap it up for this morning's webinar. We do plan on having a webinar next Friday and also for the foreseeable future. And so please look for a notice out, an e-blast from our distribution list. For the access information for that webinar. Thank you, everyone, and I hope the rest of your day is great. And I'm going to look to Erica to close us out.
Thank you, everyone, the Early Learning and Care community. Thank you so much for all the good work you do for children and families. We really appreciate. We support you. Let's continue to work together. Thank you. Have a good one. Stay safe. Talk to you next week.